Hey, it's Smallman, and you're listening to episode 7 of I Guess We'll Do It That Way. Today, we fact-check my school arson story with my dad, and I recount some tales from the legendary Sundance Film Festival. I Guess We'll Do It That Way is presented by Mama Bear Studios. Mama Bear's mission is to create entertaining works of art that explore our humanity. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe and rate us on iTunes. You've got one more week to be entered in the t-shirt drawing. Anyway, here's episode 7. Yo, John.
Yo, what's up, Uncle Zay?
Man, it's just been so long. So many days.
Feels like an eternity.
Mm-hmm. And now, I can't say I'm glad to be back. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not tired of this
Really?
podcast. No, I'm not tired of this podcast yet. I love it. I love it more every time we do it.
Is that right?
Yeah, sure. No,
Do you go back and listen on your phone to the episodes?
You know, I have actually. I try to. I went back and listened to the first episode. You know, I was wondering if it was bad.
And what'd you think?
I thought it was good. Anyone tuning in for episode 7, I think you can go back to episode 1. You won't be disappointed. I think it's a good episode.
My grandma says different, but that's okay.
Well, you know what? Grandmas are entitled to their grandma opinions. How's your life going, John? What's the latest?
Just, man, you know, the boys going back to school. It's been an absolute treat. The school that they go to has been completely renovated, you know? So it went from looking like a bombed out old trash dump to like a fancy new space school.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that bad to start out with, but they, you know, it's all glass and metal. It's all like streamlined now.
I imagine it like hovering, you know, like the whole place is hovering above the ground and you have to like take a little shuttle to get up there.
Think about Apple's campus, their new campus, wherever it is, and times that by 10 and you're getting close.
Wow. So this is it's a large school.
It's a fancy boy school.
Congratulations on all of your success, John.
Thank you. I owe most of it to this podcast.
Oh, that's so sweet. I had an interesting morning. I was woken up at about 6 a.m. by my bowels.
Oh no!
I felt like someone had blown up a Macy's Day Parade balloon inside of my torso.
What'd you do?
Well, I rolled out of bed. I stumbled to the bathroom, not in like a hurry necessarily, but just like in an early morning drunkenness, you know, and kind of stumbled to the bathroom. And it was not my best. It was not my best performance. I think the problem is I found some Indian food yesterday. It's just unreal Indian place. I got a feast, an absolute feast for me and my wife for about $12.
Oh, that's a great deal.
It was an incredible deal. And the food was mostly vegan, and yet it tasted like there was butter. Like they make these pastries, you know, like samosas and these other things. I got these stuffed pepper pakora is what it was called. Incredible. Very, very spicy though. And I ate kind of a lot of them. And so I don't do beans. I don't really do beans, and there were some lentils. So not my best morning. But I'm feeling better now.
You know, you guys live in like a small apartment, I assume, you know, relatively small.
Yes.
And is there any, you've been married for a few years, is there any embarrassment or shame or concern about the sound of your bowel movements when your wife is right next door, just a few feet away?
No.
You don't care anymore.
Smell, I don't care. Smell, I get in trouble for. And I'm like, look, if I can't stink up the bathroom, what can I stink up? I mean, that's a serious question.
It's a question we've all asked, yeah.
I want to know. I got to have
How
some
about
sort
this
of a
bus?
stink sanctuary, you know?
Sure.
But if the stink sanctuary is not the bathroom, I guess I'll just make it the kitchen.
It could also be the name of a punk band if this
Stink
podcast
Sanctuary?
doesn't work out.
That's a great
Stink
name.
Sanctuary. Oh, baby.
Well, let's get into it, eh? This is episode 7. Big milestone for us. Episode 7.
Huge.
Of I Guess We'll Do It That Way. Let's take a little inventory of the show. John, do you feel like we are out of topics yet?
My kids are always saying, you know, they're getting to the age where they're like, we're bored. And my beautiful bride always says to them, only boring people are bored. And I always say to her, stop bullying my kids. But right after, when I think about it, I'm like, you know what? She's right. So, you know, if the show sucks, it's our fault, my dude.
I know. We're really on the hook for it. I don't think it sucks.
If we're out of topics, you and I personally are out of topics. And that's just not going to happen.
No, I don't see it happening either. Stick with us, guys. It's only going to get better from here. That is if you like me talking about my bowel movements. If you don't, I'll try to start warning you in the show notes. You can check ahead of time, trigger warning.
Yeah, if anybody actually does enjoy this and is listening, do me a personal favor and write in and ask Zay to stop talking about his bowels.
Let's jump in the episode. I was thinking this week we could talk about Sundance. I woke up this morning to my street. I woke up to fumes being pumped into my window from a giant generator, literally 4 feet outside of my dining room, because they're shooting they shut down like 5 streets. They're shooting like a huge car chase of some kind. And I can actually hear a car right now in my neighborhood. It's kind of interesting.
Usually you can't hear cars in your neighborhood?
No, but I can hear a car speeding down the empty street that they forced us not to park on.
I got you. You can hear tires squealing and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of weird.
You know what they're filming?
I don't. Some movie.
This is probably pretty boring for you now, but whenever I see a film being made in person, it's pretty spectacular. We were in New Orleans and they were shooting, we were in Nolans, I should say, and they were filming on the street some French movie. The movie's called 00. Look it up.
It's a French movie being filmed in New Orleans.
Yeah, because New Orleans, you've been there, it looks like Europe.
That's fair.
I mean, the streets, if you saw somebody walking down the streets of New Orleans, you would not necessarily know that they were not in Paris.
Well, in part because I don't actually know what Paris looks like.
It looks a lot like New Orleans.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got it.
There you
now.
go.
Perfect.
Yeah, it looks very similar. It really does.
So, well, John, why don't you decide? Should we, what my point was, I woke up this morning to my street being turned into a set, which is kind of interesting and kind of relates even to where I'm at with rollers, which is I'm researching locations and all that kind of stuff. So I woke up with maybe we should audible, maybe we should do an episode about locations, but I also know that we kind of promised people some chit chat about Sundance. So what do you think we should do?
I would love to hear about Sundance.
Sundance Film Festival.
Is that Robert Redford?
Yeah, Robert Redford started it. Yeah,
He's a handsome devil, isn't he?
I think he's slightly less handsome than he used to be now that he's an old man, but he's still pretty handsome. I've never met him though.
Have you seen him?
I've seen him from a distance. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, my friend just directed a movie that he's in. The last movie he's ever going to be in, supposedly. It's coming out this fall. Old Man and the Gun. One of the other producers on Never Going Back, David Lowery, and all those guys made that. It's like a heist movie. It's going to be really good.
That sounds cool. That's also sort of a future look at me, Old Man with a Gun.
Old Man and the Gun.
Oh, never mind.
But I do think he has a gun. He's an old bank robber.
When was it? What year or how many years ago was the first time you went?
I believe it was 4 Sundances ago was my first one.
And they're held every year?
They're held every year in January, middle of January, out in Park City, Utah, in the mountains.
The first time you went, were you showing a movie that you'd worked on?
No, the first time I went was not fun at all. Chad Harris, who's kind of a Mama Bear OG, Chad Harris, love you, hope you're listening. We just decided to go because we were like, what's this whole thing about Sundance? Let's just go and see if we can get some meetings to happen and that kind of thing. It was kind of like going to middle school, on your first day, except everyone somehow already knows each other. And you're like, wait, how did you all know each other? How did you all know that this party was going on? How did you get into this party? How did you get into that movie? And we just ended up kind of not doing a lot because we had no idea what we were doing. It was very boring.
Yeah, that sounds kind of lame. So it's you and another dude walking around trying to get invited to parties.
Yeah, in the snow, trying to figure out. We had 2 meetings scheduled. 3 meetings. First meeting was a guy that I knew that worked at a post-production facility in New York. And we were hanging out with him. We're sitting at a bar, drinking our alcoholic beverages. And one of the guys brings up Breaking Bad, and I was kind of saying, I thought it was good, but blah, blah. I was kind of just being a little negative on it. And then Chad kind of bumped me from under the table because he was sitting opposite me. He's like, dude, quit shitting on Breaking Bad. And I was like, why? I was like, I don't like Breaking Bad. Who cares? And he's like, Bob Odenkirk is sitting 3 feet away from you on your right. And I was like, what? And I look over, and Bob Odenkirk, who is the one of the main guys on Breaking Bad, now Better Call Saul, was just sitting there in the next booth over, right next to me. And I was just kind of shit talking, Breaking Bad without really meaning to. So that was one of the first things that ever happened Sundance, and it kind of got my hopes up. And he was sitting there with Mitch Hurwitz, who's the creator of Arrested Development. And so we all kind of got up to leave around the same time. And I grabbed Mitch Hurwitz, and I was like, dude, I know you probably get this a lot, but I just think your work is so good. Because Arrested Development's one of the greatest things I've ever watched. And especially the older stuff. And he's like, do you actually know who I am? He's like, I think you might think I'm someone else. And I was like, no, you're Mitch Hurwitz, right? You created Arrested Development. And I could tell he was like actually genuinely kind of happy because he is probably the kind of guy who most people actually don't know who he is in a way because he's a show creator. Sure. It's like, I only know that because I watch all the special features for Arrested Development. And so that was kind of a fun thing. And then it was all downhill from there. I mean, basically, we just couldn't find any meetings. Nothing was happening. We did meet a couple people like that ended up being very, helpful. And overall, the trip wasn't a waste. But it was just a lot of us trying to figure out how everyone else knows how it works and we don't.
Bob Odenkirk, who was sitting with the creator of Arrested Development, is connected to that show through David Cross. Because they did a show way back in the day.
I know this
He's
show.
like Mr. Show. Did you say anything to Bob? You should have said hi to Bob.
I think I said hey. I think I was like, hey, man, suck it.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah.
It does sound like middle school.
We did have one good meeting with, and this is kind of a story for another time, but like a crazy, 6 connections deep sort of random meeting with a guy named Ross something. And that he was the guy who brought me the Hunter-Gatherer script.
Which you would later bring back to Sundance, right?
Hunter-Gatherer we took to South by. But anyway, one highlight of the first year is we found this place called the Stella Lounge, because all these alcohol companies sponsor different things. And the Stella Lounge had, as you can imagine, free Stella Artois. And is that the proper pronunciation?
That's
Write me in.
Those shoes, let's clear this up, because those shoes, I don't even want to say it because I don't want to get laughed at, but it starts with an S and ends with O-N-Y. How do you say the name of that shoe?
Sony.
No. Saucony? Saucony?
Oh, Saucony.
I'm not sure that's right.
Saucony.
I feel like we could easily figure this out, but I've never bothered to look it up.
I believe it's actually. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna look up pronunciation. Hold on. I'm looking it up right now. Sausage.
It's Saucony.
I think it's sausage.
Bangers and mash.
So first year at Sundance, not so great. Second year, slightly better. I find this house, and I'm like, this place is going to be so great. It was like a quarter of the price of everywhere else that we'd ever looked at.
How much a night? What do we talk? Give us an idea.
I mean, a typical 2 or 3 bedroom house might be like $1,500 a night.
That's a lot.
It's a lot because you got to go for like 4 or 5, 6 days. And so I found this place for like 400, 500, maybe, 500. And it was like a cool little log cabin kind of place. Not really. Yeah, it was kind of a log cabin, just like an old 70s house. Beautiful, built right into the side of the mountain. Just absolutely gorgeous. That house ends up kind of playing into this whole longer story, but maybe we should get to the mail first.
I am ready to look at some mail.
Unlike most other weeks, we actually have relevant mail that I'm so excited to answer. It's going to be such a fun time.
We actually got mail,
Yep.
huh?
All right, so I think first we should clarify. We heard, thankfully, from our boy Danny. He actually sent me. He emailed in a screenshot of his conversation with the redneck peacock grower, and I feel bad even just now about calling him a redneck because it sounds like he might not be the exact stereotype that I had in my mind.
No rednecks are raising peacocks. I'm pretty sure of that. This guy's sophisticated.
I cannot confirm or deny the truth of exactly what you're saying because I only have one anecdotal piece of evidence, but you're right based on this. So Dan writes, the implication in his message was that the peafowl were for pets, not for consumption. He said he wanted them to go to good homes with space to roam. And now I feel like a big jerk.
Yeah, but hold the phone. How did we get from raising peafowl for pets to this guy thinking the guy was selling them for food?
I think this is...
How did he think that?
I think he didn't. I think the problem was me. I think I took the word some as opposed to they or, more normal pronouns. I took the word some to sort of turn them into a quantity, a commodity, if you will, as opposed to like livestock. I apologize. I own my mistake yet again. I am very sorry.
I'm glad Danny clarified that for us. Danny, you're a good guy.
Danny, thank you, brother.
Problem solved. We got any other mail?
Dude, we got so much good mail. Okay, we got another mail from Hunt Davidson of Chattanooga. He writes, thanks for the podcast. I've enjoyed learning about how movies are made. The nuts and bolts are fascinating. Question. That is very nice. Thank you, Hunt. I'm so glad you're enjoying
Hold
it.
up.
Yeah.
Hunt? H-U-N-T?
Hunt. Like Athena, the huntress. I don't know if that's who that is.
You got to be careful. Anybody with a verb for a first name.
I imagine that he's not the kind of guy that you would want to be hunted by because he's probably got a lot of practice. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So it's a fitting, intimidating name.
It sounds
Got
like his name is Hunt David Son. So I think he was born with the express purpose of hunting David's son. So if your dad's name is David, watch out. So Hunt writes, thanks for the podcast. I've enjoyed learning about how movies are made. The nuts and bolts are fascinating. Question, how do you know when a project is done? How do you know when it's time to say this movie is as good as it needs to be? I think that's a great question, and it actually might be too good of a question to answer right at this moment. So maybe we could just plan to do like an episode about it. Because I think the same is true with scripts. I think it's true in the edit. There's a lot of times where that's actually a very compelling question.
Yeah.
So sorry, Hunt.
Our answer is wait.
Our answer is bye-bye. But he has a PS. He says, also, I want to know, I know it was in the box. This is important, John. Hunt says there's nothing in the box. But don't spoil it yet, because we have another guess. But Hunt, thank you for your submission. We have another message from a young man named Daniel Lloyd. Daniel, hello. Daniel writes, I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of this story. I'm assuming he's referring to the head in the box. Was it a copy? This is actually a very interesting guess. Was it a copy of the January 2000 edition of National Geographic Celebration of Earth and Beyond?
Whoa.
Danny writes, I'm going to flip my shit if I'm right.
Wow.
Danny, I'm very excited about your enthusiasm.
I hope you got clean undies on, Danny, because
Oh, baby.
you're going to be surprised.
Yeah. Speaking of people who wanted to know what was in the head box, my dad also wrote in, and he also wrote in to clarify or sort of corroborate my story about almost burning a school down. So I was thinking, John, I mean, you got to be cool with this, but I was thinking maybe we could call him up and see if he wants to sort of shed a little light on the story, as well as maybe throw his hat in the ring for the head in the box contest. What do you think of that?
Last time Steve and I talked, it didn't go great, but you know what? I'm willing
What happened?
to give him another shot.
What happened?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Get him on the line.
All right, I'll ring him up. Beep, beep, boop, blah, 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 internet sounds. Blah, blah, blah. Steve, are you there?
Zay, what's going on?
Hey,
Oh, my goodness.
Steve, as planned, as of recently, I told you I might be calling you. Here we are.
I am so thrilled and honored that you would want to do that.
Well,
I knew there was a chance it could happen. I was trying not to get my hopes up, but, I told some people I might be guesting on your podcast and that I was pretty nervous.
It's a lot of pressure.
maybe for future reference, don't tell people you're guesting on our podcast until you actually do it. Puts a little bit of pressure on me.
That's so true. We had to bump Condoleezza Rice to get you on here, Steve.
Yeah, I'm getting texts from Condi right now, and she's like, dude, who is your dad and why is he so important? Because this is some BS. And she's probably never going to come back, so this better be really good.
Yeah,
Pressure's on now.
unlike Condi, I have no security clearance to be revoked.
True, but you're also not a committer of war crimes. So
Oh, man, John, getting political.
a little feisty.
Anyway, Steve, thanks for jumping on. Why don't you tell a couple people, which is about how many people are probably listening right now. Why don't you tell a couple people who you are and what you do, other than the fact that you're my dad, which is still up for debate, but we're going to go with that for the purposes of this podcast.
I think that a couple people is selling yourself short. I would guesstimate you're up to at least 41 listeners.
Hey, that's so nice of you. Thank you.
I live in Baltimore, which is where Isaiah grew up. And there I lead a design-led studio.
No one knows what that means. No offense.
Are you guys forward thinking?
Are you creatives?
We are innovative, forward-leaning, best in class.
Are you sex positive?
What's your rating from the Better Business Bureau, though?
Oh, it's AAA.
Okay, all right.
What about Yelp?
I think we're probably 4.5 stars out of 5.
I would need some additional references in that case.
I feel like we could bump that up to 4.8. Come on.
Kidding. Design led is great.
Videos, animations, websites, identity, branding work, and strategy, design stuff, that sort of thing. Creative services.
Where can we find you? What's the name of the company?
154.com.
Well, real quick. So we, us as a fam, we were living in Baltimore. You were doing what?
We were doing community development work in West Baltimore. We were part of a group that was doing housing with a Habitat for Humanity chapter. We had a healthcare center, a school, and I had started something called New Song Arts, which was an arts program. We used music training and performance opportunities to teach life skills to kids there in that community. So we had a couple performance ensembles that toured nationally, and Isaiah and Paul were a part of that.
Oh my gosh.
It's hard when your performance career peaks in middle school.
I've been dealing with that ever since.
Steve, you know Justin Bieber?
I do. I'm familiar with that name.
Is he an actor?
Yeah, he's been in some movies, I'm sure, right?
He's got some really cool tattoos.
He does. But he also has a pastor, a hipster Brooklyn pastor. You know this guy? You look him up. He's got tattoos. He's got a fancy boy haircut, and he's Justin Bieber's pastor. He's from Hillsong. I don't like the guy. I think he's corrupt. But did you have any celebrity little apprentices walking around with you?
Oh, yeah, they did back in Philly.
That's true. We did back in Philly. In our youth group were Ron Lopez, Reina Lopez, and her sister, Lisa Left Eye Lopez.
Left Eye Lopez. You're kidding me.
AKA, yes, the one.
She burned
and
a house
only.
down too, didn't she?
Actually,
Almost.
she
lit
did.
her,
Oh
she
my
lit her boyfriend's
gosh.
shoes on fire,
She
right?
tried. Wow, this is a recurring theme. I think we need to change the name of the podcast.
Burning down the house. All right.
Wow. John, does that arouse you thinking about that?
That, ladies and gentlemen, is called a callback. That's cool. What was she like?
I went to the funeral, sadly. Sad day. I rode in the limo with the fam.
Seriously?
Yep. Sure did.
Wow.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was a tough
What was
time.
she like? What was she like? How'd she die?
died in a car wreck in, like,
car wreck
Panama
in
or something.
Honduras. She was
Sorry.
She was driving a crew. They were on a retreat in Honduras and lost control of the vehicle, and she was the only fatality. But there were some other injuries. It was tough.
Wow, that's sad.
Yeah, no, she was. I'll tell you the one story that's kind of interesting. One night when she was starting to break out her rap craft and had gotten some attention and was apparently going to move to Atlanta to try to make it. The kids were all like, "Come on, give us some rap, bust a rhyme for us. Like, let us hear a little sample."
What year would this have been, Steve? Like 89, 90, 91,
Probably,
92?
yeah, 88, 89, right in there.
Right.
So she threw down some verse, and she had kind of a high-pitched, sort of a nasally tone that's now famous. And I remember just hearing her and sitting there with my arms folded thinking, I don't know, I'm a pretty creative guy, and I got to say, good luck with that, because I'm just not seeing
Pass on
it.
TLC.
I'm just not seeing
What
it.
you should have said is, don't go chasing waterfalls.
Where'd you live in Philly? You know, that's where I'm from. Right across the Ben Franklin
Yeah,
Bridge.
you're in the worst part, John.
Hey.
Kidding. Jersey's great.
You guys lived in West Philadelphia?
Born and raised.
Actually, not technically, no. This was more like North Central Philly is where we lived.
Gotcha.
Very cool. Well, that was a very enlightening story. Steve, you may now go.
Thank you.
Just kidding. No, all right. I do want to hear the fire story, but we need to finish the head in the box mystery. Otherwise, our listeners are all going to bail. So, Steve.
I demand.
Steve, you had a guess. What did you demand? You didn't actually have
I
a guess.
didn't guess. I demanded to know.
Okay, well, I would like you to guess.
You want me to guess?
I want you to guess, then I'm going to guess because I actually don't know yet.
Okay,
And
because
then we're going
I
to
will say
remind
in my
people what other
defense,
people said, and then John needs to go.
I was responding to a gauntlet you threw down that no one had even asked you. There was no follow-up, and so I'm demanding to know what was in the box.
Which I appreciate, but I do think that we need a guess. John, don't you agree?
It's up to Steve. It would be helpful, Steve.
All right, I'm going to guess. I'm going to eliminate. I can't say this stuff. You have people listening to this.
True.
But I know what it wasn't.
False.
It wasn't a reference to a famous Andy Samberg, Justin Timberlake SNL film. It was not that. That was not what was in the box.
Right. You're referring to
It's my dick
a
in a
Richard.
box.
Yes.
It wasn't.
Okay, so it was not a D in the box. Steve, would you like to make an affirmative
It was
guess?
not a penis.
I'm gonna say that it was a box. It was a little small pack of old 45 records.
That's a good guess. Okay,
Okay,
so
no. I want to guess. I think it was a sign that said, "I'm right behind you," so that when you open it and you read it, you're like, and then you turn around and there's someone not behind you.
that's a good guess. That's a good guess.
The other answers were nothing, and the January 2000 edition of National Geographic, Celebration of Earth and Beyond.
Okay, so two quick things. One, there was sort of a dilemma, right? So my two kids, they're at the time they'd be 6 and 9, right? They saw the box and they said, "Can we look?" They read the sign because they can read, even though we live in Chattanooga, they can read just fine. They said, "Can we look in the box?" Because there was a sign that said, "Don't look in the box." The box was like, a foot by a foot. And I immediately thought back to when I was a kid. We went to the Philadelphia Art Museum, and there was a wall, like a picket fence set up in the museum, and there was a peephole. And this is in the modern art section of the Philadelphia Art Museum, which is a really nice art museum. Y'all should go.
The Rocky Steps.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So there is a gate, like a picket fence, and there's like a hole that you're supposed to look through. And I was with my dad, and my dad looked through, and he turned around and he was like, "No, you can't look in there."
Oh,
right?
So good.
To this day, I don't know what was through
Wow.
the peephole. It's one of those things, where your mind goes nuts and you imagine stuff that's probably 10,000 times worse than like the bare-chested woman that is actually behind there. But I thought of that immediately, and I said to the kids, I was like, "No, don't look in the box." Then I also immediately thought of Gwyneth Paltrow in the movie Seven.
Which is where the whole head in the box contest came from.
Exactly. So I told the boys no, and then I thought about it, and I was like, what's the worst that they're going to see?
Right.
So I said, "Yeah, go look in the box." And they looked in the box, and to be honest, I was actually really, really nervous. They came up to me, and they said there was a little plaque inside the box that said, "Thank you for your participation."
That's it.
That's it.
John, we stretched this over like 4 episodes. You could have warned me that this was a complete waste of everyone's time.
Hey, this is reality, guys. Get used to it. It's just a huge disappointment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was basically nothing in the box. Now, so this kind of led me to think it's obviously an experiment of some sort, right? Like some grad students being cute.
Yeah, it's got to be that.
Right? They got a camera set up and they look and see who looks in the box, who doesn't look in the box.
What they should have put inside is a photo release form that you have to sign.
I really thought it would be hardcore pornography, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
I think that's a reasonable assumption. I mean, it's sad, but it's a reasonable assumption.
I did. And I'm pretty sure for all the horrified listeners out there, my wife was there. She looked in the box first.
Okay, good.
I wouldn't just let my little kids look in the box.
Well, I wouldn't put it past you. I wouldn't put it past you. My dad would have.
Yeah, Steve, would you have let Zay look in the box when he's 9 years old?
I don't know. I can't put I can't judge.
You would have looked first?
I would have had to make my own decision in that moment, just like you did.
Yeah, I let the boys make they're sentient, they're making their own choices. I'll let them do what they want.
Just like when you let Lisa Left Eye Lopez take me to Atlanta and become her rap protege. And it changed my life forever, and I'm forever grateful.
I think it's probably a good time to say I had nothing to do with the success of her career.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, Steve. Don't sell yourself short. Well, John, thank you for that. I'm not going to call it enlightening.
Disappointing.
That sufficient answer. I think we should take this opportunity to allow Steve to kind of set the record straight on the fire story. I could be remembering everything wrong. Just for a recap, though. This is the story from episode 5, where I nearly burned down a school. Did I get anything right or wrong, Steve? Like, how do you remember the incident from the beginning?
You got it mostly right, and I will say you.
Oh, wow. That's kind of a miracle.
Got it mostly right. I went out on the back
How
porch.
old was I? Can you confirm my age, first of all?
I think you were probably 10 or 11, like you said.
Okay.
And went out on the back porch. You and Terrell were out there sitting on our green little glider, that old-timey metal chair thingy that swings back and forth. You had pretzel rods, and the first thing you said to me was, "Dad, we're smoking blunts."
Did I? Why would I ever say that?
I have no idea. I think my response was something like what you represented in the podcast. I was like, yeah, no, you're not.
This is a blunt.
No, I made you give me the matches. Evidently, you or Terrell had some more stashed in your socks or something. because you left and went to allegedly, air quotes, play baseball at the school with everybody else.
What a disaster.
The next thing I knew was someone banging on the door telling me I had to come now. And so something was wrong. I didn't know what. I ran around the corner to the school, ran up on this scene. I look over, and there was a fire-nado in the corner of the school. I mean, it was a huge column of fire, like the one that guided the children of Israel out of Egypt. I mean, it was like...
It was a fire-nado. I was not imagining
ginormous
that.
column of fire. And
Wow.
you were like, oh my gosh, my life is over. This is horrible. Like, you were literally going around, expressing that way. Oh, I can't believe this. So I'm like, okay, we're all alive. We're going to be okay. Looks like the school has not come down yet. And by then the fire department was already there. The cops showed up. I don't remember waiting for the school cop like you said, but I do remember the cops walking over to Mom and I and saying, okay, this is usually a little rough for the moms, but we're going to put your son in handcuffs and he has to get in the back of the squad car.
So wait, did that seem ridiculous to you that they were cuffing us? I mean, did you protest that, or did you just kind of accept it as it was?
They just said, this is protocol. We are going to book them for malicious mischief. And
Sounds nice and
because
vague.
it is a felony.
Oh, so it was a felony.
That's what they said. Yes.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure.
I always thought it was some lame misdemeanor charge.
Maybe it was one below a felony. I honestly.
No, don't take this away from me.
It was serious enough that protocol was cuffs, squad car. We'll call you when you can pick him up. So don't be following us or anything like that. So yeah, we sat at home for forever waiting for them to call, and the whole time I'm just like, waiting, worried that some inmate was making my little boy his bitch.
Oh,
or
did that happen, Zay?
I don't remember. I have some. No, it's not funny to joke about. No, thankfully it did not. It did not happen. I was well taken care of.
Good to know.
I was worried that like some overzealous cop was like, in your face, sit your punk ass down.
Which did happen.
Whoa. Steve, were you worried that you were personally in any kind of legal trouble?
I was not worried about that. The scene was overwhelming though. Police, fire engine, crowd.
Yeah.
People from the neighborhood were very reassuring. A couple people stopped by and said, look, this kind of stuff happens. I'm like, it does? Okay.
I'm almost surprised that people weren't like, yeah, this is why we don't need you dumb whiteys in this neighborhood. Like, you come in here to try to build us houses and then you burn our public schools down. I'm actually really surprised that didn't come up, because that's kind of a legitimate complaint if you think about it, considering you guys were there to try to help rebuild the community.
I think that was probably the concern that was in my mind, and that's probably why a few people stopped by the house and said, look, almost like, hey, we're in this together. We're all trying to raise our kids here in this place, and you're gonna be okay, Dad. Mm-hmm. I do remember a moment that sticks out. We're walking back to the house. I'm walking with Paul, Isaiah's younger brother, and Paul says, Dad, I need a new baseball bat. I was like, Paul, your brother just got arrested. I'm really not thinking about baseball right now.
Paul is just always looking to get me out of the picture. He probably set the fire.
He's thinking about that guap now that Zay's gone.
It was probably an emotional moment for him too, and he's probably looking for a way to diffuse the situation. But yeah, they told us the
That's very
charge
generous of you.
would go on your record, but that it would be expunged when you turned 18. So I doubt if anybody ever looked at it or looked it up. And your memory of the quote-unquote trial is correct. There were like multiple no-shows, like nobody was there. And so they're like, okay, I guess we'll all just go home. I did call the principal of the school next day and apologized, told her the whole story. I said we, meaning you, would make restitution, paint the doors, clean up, whatever. And she said, well, it had already all been taken care of, but she was extremely grateful for the call because she had only heard this like vague story that some white kid had tried to burn the school down.
Oh, my gosh.
What was your
Yikes.
haircut like back then, Zay?
Shaved. I was bald.
Yeah, was
I had
it?
a big
Okay.
Nazi tattoo on the back of my head.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was not a good look.
And in Chattanooga, I don't know or in the South in general, I know they have it in Florida too. There's a little magazine they put out called Just Busted, and anybody who gets booked or arrested for any type of offense is put in this thing. Their mugshot's put in it with a little description underneath. Did something like that exist up in Baltimore, and do we have a picture of Zay's mugshot?
Did they take mugshots, Zay? I don't think they did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, they did.
Okay, so it's somewhere. Man, we got to find that.
The police station I was taken to, it really was like a castle, right? Like, that's not just my imagination.
No,
It was like an old Gothic castle.
Yes, absolutely.
So weird.
The Northern District, probably a picture on online, but yeah, old stone
I'll post it in the show notes,
structure,
yeah.
little Dracula castle action.
When I was a kid, I worked at a Christian summer camp, and I told the story of burning my garage down to a bunch of little kids. And I came to the sort of bizarre conclusion back then, because I'm sort of giving like an impromptu sermon basically to a bunch of little kids, and I used that story as an analogy, like the burning of the building was sin, and getting out of it by knowing somebody was like knowing Jesus to forgive you for your sins. It was very bizarre, and all the kids there were like, they saw right through that story.
Steve, do you have any pastoral thoughts on John's heresy? Steve, hello. I think we lost Steve.
I think Steve just paid us back for the Nate saga, hanging up on Uncle Nate.
Steve just hung up on us. Unbelievable.
He just bailed.
He just totally ghosted us.
Hey, he totally just bailed.
That is, oh my gosh. Well, you know what? We had it coming.
We did deserve it.
This whole practical joke is really getting out of hand.
Bye, Steve.
Man, I got to say, I feel kind of I don't know what this says about me, but I feel slightly cooler knowing that I was charged with a felony and got away with it.
He didn't say it was definitely a felony. In fact,
John,
his memory
don't
sounded pretty
take
hazy
this-
about that.
Don't take this from me.
I'm just saying, everybody listening knows that. What was it? Malicious
mischief.
That sounds like some old racist type law, doesn't it?
Mischievous mischief.
It does. It's so nebulous, so vague.
Do we have any lawyers listening? Because I would love for someone to come in and set the record setting straight.
It's too vague. Your dad's a cool guy. He's a great guy, and
He's
I'm sure there's somebody listening who doesn't know this about him, but your dad has an unusual handshake in the sense that he's missing half of one finger. Now the world knows.
It's. I think he's gotten better at it, but yeah, I do think he had to practice not jabbing it into your palm. Because it sort of just falls in, and it's like, oh, why is there a finger sticking me in my palm? He does this hilarious joke where, if he's around a newborn baby, he places his partial finger right over their soft spot, and it looks like it's very freaky. Even if you know the joke, it looks like his finger is knuckle deep in their brain. It's very gross.
Oh wow, that is amazing. Do you have a picture of your niece?
No,
with this?
but we need to get that.
We need to get this.
We'll get a picture. When we do, we'll let you all know. I'm actually really glad he could confirm that, because there were things that there's always part of me that's maybe it wasn't really that big of a fire. Maybe the cops didn't really, maybe it didn't really go down that way. Maybe the police station was just kind of like some shitty police station. I just have a funny memory. So
maybe it was all a dream.
But it wasn't, apparently, unless we were just dual hallucinating.
That has been an explanation for some unexplained phenomenon in the history of our species.
It might actually be worth looking into if there's something with the whole pretzel smoking thing. Maybe that created a dual, maybe triple hallucination experience for all of us.
Pretzel fumes.
Pretzel fumes are dangerous. Speaking of fumes, though, I should finish. I've been dragging this story out for what feels like years. And it's probably going to be just as anticlimactic as our head in the box revelation. Which, man, by the way, you warned us. You warned us. You probably would be better off not knowing. But I thought maybe that you were just pulling our leg, and that it actually was exciting, and you were being entirely genuine. It was not exciting at all. Speaking of fumes, I've been dragging this story out for ages, and it's really not that great. Basically, what happened is we're at Sundance. This is 2 Sundances ago. This is the Sundance. We take Davion there. This is the first time I've had a movie that we're bringing to the festival. It's very exciting. I'm very nervous.
Davion is a movie that you made.
Davion is a movie that I executive produced. Aman Abbasi's director. And we had a hoot. There's some great partners on it. David Gordon Green, kind of same team from Rough House Pictures that did Hunter Gatherer with us. But then, there was another guy named James Seamus who he was the CEO of Focus Features for a while, and he wrote Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and has just kind of been a major part of the growth of the independent film industry. So he's kind of a legend, right? And he's an executive producer on the project. So I'm kind of like, man, I'm in like some really good company. And so the premiere for Davion is that night, and we have a meeting, and an email goes out to all the EPs and the producers and everybody, and it's like, hey, we need to have a quick sort of pre-premiere catch up to sort of just strategize and talk about where we're at with sales. Our sales agent was there, and they were like, who's got a place we can hang out at? Somebody was like, oh, we could do my hotel room, but it's kind of small. I was like, hey, let's just do our house. I'm thinking like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like I'm having like James Seamus at my house. That's cool. We have this meeting, right? And there's probably freaking, I don't know, 3 feet of snow on the ground. And everybody gets up there, they tromp in, there's just like all these people packed into our living room. And I'm like stoking the fire, and it's kind of smoky, which is a little frustrating because I'm kind of blowing it. I'm like being the guy who's like, let's do it at my house. And then I kind of screw it up. Yeah. And so I'm a little frustrated, right? Because we're like talking, and our sales agent, Ryan, is like, yeah, we've got, so here's the deal. Like Netflix really liked it. We haven't even premiered yet. They're giving us 48 hours to like make a decision. And that's kind of a whole another conversation about like, the actual sales process. But the room is just getting smokier, and everybody like James, who's like kind of, he's not old, but he's on the older side. He's just over there he's just hacking up a lung because the room is just starting to like get very smoky. And I was just like, guys, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. And everybody's just coughing.
Just real time.
Yeah.
Just real time. If anybody feels like writing in, this would be a great time because everybody simultaneously, myself included, is thinking, open the flue.
The flue was open. I checked.
Okay.
I'm not a fireplace novice. The flue was open.
Okay. Flue's open. What kind of logs you got in there? What kind of logs you got in the fireplace?
Some well-seasoned birch logs. It's not like a nasty, wet, crackly, poppy fire. It's like real wood. Okay. I've checked all these things. I know how to build a fire, and I'm not saying I don't feel questioned. No. You're right. That's the first thing I would say. I would say, open the flue. The flue is open. That's probably what James said. He was like, open the flue. I could just picture him doing that, So anyway, I like swing. It's like 4 degrees outside, but I have to like open these freaking sliding doors. There's like snow blowing in, and now we're freezing and smoky. And of course, I just kind of like grab the logs and like throw them out on the porch in the snow, and we're done with the fire. I'm like, forget the fire. I ruined everything. But we got a good laugh out of it. It was fine,
What did Sean O'Shaughnessy think? What's that guy's name?
James Seamus.
Guinness? Yeah, James Seamus.
He was very good. He was very nice about it. He was
everybody was like really Hollywood gracious.
Yeah, I think so. I think James, he did kind of pull me aside afterwards, and he was like, "You're never gonna make it if you keep doing this kind of bullshit."
Hey man, you really fucked up this fire.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of pulled me aside. He was like, "You're never working this town again." And I was like, I'm sorry.
If you make movies like you make fires,
you're done.
You're done, kid.
You're out of here. No, he was.
Have you ever had anybody give you that Hollywood business, Zay? Has anyone given you the Hollywood business like that yet?
That Hollywood business?
That is to say, has anyone used any of the following phrases? This town, as in, you'll never make it in this town. Or the business, like, you're never going to make it in this business.
I've definitely heard the business quite a bit, just because it comes up, but not in a derogatory sort of exclusionary way.
Do you think like electricians are walking around like to other electricians who aren't great, like, you're never gonna make it in the business?
No, people in Hollywood think Hollywood is the business. Little do they know that all of their companies are owned by like giant Wall Street conglomerates, and the revenue generated by the entire global box office is like what Amazon sneezes and makes it in profit quarterly. It's not the business. It's such an inconsequential business, but everyone refers to it as the business because they think it's the most important thing ever.
Yeah. And isn't it?
Yeah, no, it totally is, for sure.
Did you actually, to get back to the story real quick, did you actually pick up smoldering logs and bring them outside in front of all these dudes? You're like walking past them with a handful of flaming birch?
Thankfully, the fireplace was right next to the porch.
I see.
But no, now we're freezing and we finished this meeting and I'm kind of embarrassed. And it's fine. It's just not the end of the world. Anyway, fast forward, okay? We're at the premiere. The premiere goes great. It's a hoot. We're all kind of nervous because it's a big deal. And a lot of people are there. We have a great time. We go to the premiere. We go to the after party, which is like really crowded. And I'm there for maybe 20, 30 minutes. And I have this feeling. I have a feeling. And I don't think this is revisionist. I think I actually remember that I had a feeling, an inexplicable one, that I should just run home and change clothes and like grab some stuff because I think I'm going to be out for a while and just check on the house because why not? You know what I'm saying? Because we had other people staying with us. We were sharing the house with several other people who I like subletted a couple rooms to help pay for it. So I walk up from Main Street. It's maybe 10 p.m. I walk up from Main Street. I'm trudging up the street. I'm covered in snow. I mean, the snow is like past my knees, not in the middle of the street, but like it's very, very snowy and very cold. And I get to the house. We up on this big high hill. It's kind of exhausting to get there. And I get to our house and I hear a beeping. And I was like, I wonder, because I haven't been in the house since like noon.
Sure.
And I get to the house and there's a beeping. And I think that's kind of weird. And then as I get closer to the house, I see light in an upper window of the foyer.
Flickering light?
Flickering light.
Oh, no.
And then as I get even closer, I see smoke creeping out under the front door. And I see more light in other windows.
Uh-oh.
I go, and I'm scared to go in the front door because, like, I didn't want to
Hold on, though.
Okay.
Had you been or were you smoking a pretzel at the time?
That's what was so weird about it is that I've been pretzel sober for, like, 15 years at this point.
Oh, wow. That's great.
No, it's been great. So, like, at that point, I was like, no, this can't be.
The program works, people.
It does
the program
work.
Works.
Exactly. So I was like, no, it can't just be, like, some weird fire hallucination.
Yeah, can't be a dough fire.
No, exactly. So I run, I'm basically just like, there's no weird way to get down to the basement without basically just falling through waist deep snow over like, this very steep hill. And I'm just covered in snow. I burst into the basement and the basement is fine. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm still good.
Wait, you thought you were still good? There was a part of the house on fire, but the basement wasn't, so you thought you were good?
I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking maybe it was still to the point. I've never been in a house fire. I was thinking maybe it was still at the point where I could like grab a pot of water and like put it out.
Okay.
I don't know what I was thinking. I ran up the stairs.
Are you sure that you were pretzel sober, bruh?
Well, now you're making me kind of reconsider. I don't know.
Sounds like a classic relapse.
Okay, I might have smelled a couple pretzels. I didn't. But
so you go in the basement.
I go in the basement.
Fine.
I run up the stairs, and the entire living room is in flames.
Oh, no.
Like the walls, everything is on fire.
Oh, no.
And
this is a classic like Utah ski chalet
Yes.
in the sense that everything is made out of wood.
Exactly. All the walls are made of
okay.
wood. And I gasp because I literally run as I'm running up the stairs. I run past a flaming wall and like it's just way more shocking than I expected. So
I just love that literally seconds ago you thought, maybe I'm fine, to gasp
of hot carbon monoxide just full of my lungs, and I collapsed instantly to the floor, hacking because I just was like, holy shit, like I just burned my lungs out and I can't see, my eyes are on fire, and I can't breathe anymore. And I thought I was going to die because like I couldn't figure out where the door, everything was so smoky. I couldn't see anything. And so I dropped to my knees. I'm like hacking up a lung. I can't breathe. And I almost passed out.
Had you called anybody?
Not at this point.
Had you called the fire department?
No, not at this point. Again, very foolishly. And so I get really low. I like catch my breath a little bit. And then I crawl to the door, swing the door open, and crawl out into the snow and basically just lay there for like a solid 30 seconds or a minute, just like getting my breath in the snow. Then I sort of trudge up through the snow, get to the street, call the cops. The fire department came. They basically spray down the entire house. In the meantime, because it took them a minute, though, to get there, I'm just standing there watching flames just billowing out of the front door of my house. And I'm like, I'm going to go to jail.
Ever,
like, I was like, I'm going to jail. I'm going to get sued.
Again.
Somehow this is my fault. You know what I mean? Because I think I was like having a flashback almost of like this school incident. It was intense.
Sounds like some malicious mischief to me.
That's what I was worried about. So anyway, what happens is I'm standing out there waiting for the cops to come, watching this house nearly burn down.
Robert Redford standing next to you, shaking his head slowly as a tear rolls down his cheek.
He's like, we should have never done this. No, this guy walks by and he sees that we're all kind of off the beaten path. We're not like on a main through street, and everybody's out because it's like Saturday night at Sundance. No one's going back to their houses. This one guy walks by and he sees that I'm just like kind of in a daze, just like staring at this burning house. And he's like, dude, are you okay? And I was like, I think so. And he's like, I'm gonna wait with you till the fire department comes. Is that cool with you? And I was like, yeah, that would actually be really nice.
Turns out it was Harvey Weinstein.
I know. You ruined the story. That was the whole punchline of the entire story. Yeah, actually though, that guy wasn't Harvey. It was the first responder was Harvey Weinstein, and he rushed in, and he put the fire out single-handedly. So, all right, let me fast forward kind of through the rest of it. They put the fire out, and we went into this house with the fire department to get all of our stuff out, which was very eerie because like the fire alarm's going, everything's soaking wet. There's just burnt out walls everywhere. I mean, I felt like I was in a horror movie or something. And I actually rolled video inside the house, so I'll try to put it in the show notes. But like, then the fire marshal, he's like, hey, I want to show you something. He shoots water up the flue out through a hose, and it just comes straight back down.
Oh, no.
Because the flue was so blocked that literally no air could get out. So he was like, dude, this is not your fault. If anything, this is like negligence on the part of the owner. Like, absolutely not your fault in any way. I'm just glad you weren't here because it was a really slow growth of a fire. And so we could have died. And then, of course, I'm thinking, like, what if this had happened 5 hours later? We were all home, kind of buzzed, not quick to wake up, and we just freaking die. It was very scary.
Yeah, it's a popular way to commit suicide in Asia is to, you got a little apartment, you take a little charcoal grill, and you light it.
Wow.
Game over.
All right, so a couple highlights of the rest of the story. First, we got to find a place to stay, which, like I said, at Sundance is a disaster because there's literally nowhere left at this point. And so we end up crashing at my buddy Carl's house. All of our stuff is just like gray, covered in soot, and it smells terrible. And he's like, yeah, I guess you could stay at my place with like 30 other people. So we just like dump all of our stuff in the garage, stay there. The next morning, I'm trying to figure out where to go, but I have this meeting with this guy. This is probably honestly the highlight of the entire story for me. I have a meeting with this guy, Marcus Cox, who's a great producer who I had met the year before.
I've actually heard he prefers Marcus Penis, but whatever.
Marcus, if you're listening, let us know what you prefer. I don't want to judge. Marcus, we meet up for coffee. We shake hands, and he's like, dude, you smell like smoke. Were you at a campfire?
Are those pretzels in your pocket?
Well, and I told him the story, what happened, and I kind of started to like get kind of emotional because it was just like very intense. I was like, I don't know where we're staying tonight. Some other stuff kind of happened that was like very frustrating and traumatic sort of interpersonally, and like it was just like not a good night. And he just kind of stands up and comes over and he just gives me a huge hug and just holds it for like kind of a long time. And it was just the kindest thing he possibly could have done. I had no idea that I needed a hug, but I realized immediately once he did it, I was like, I needed a hug, like really bad. And somehow Marcus knew that.
The people that come in your life and give hugs, those are truly special people. You know, especially people you don't know well. Like if your mom hugs you, that's whatever. But if you like tell your neighbor who you don't know real well that some hard shit has happened in your life and they give you like a genuine hug, it's some of the nicest moments possible in humanity. You know,
I agree.
To just share physical touch with another person.
It was, yeah, man, it's a big deal to do that. It's scary in some cases to do it because it requires vulnerability on the part of the hugger.
Sure, yeah.
But I agree, man. I think we should do it a lot more. I think it's really awesome.
Give somebody you don't know well a hug today, guys.
Try to feel out a little bit whether they're into it or not before you go for it. You know, like if they really
or don't.
need it.
Just go in for it. Give them a real strong one.
And then
go all out.
And then when they try to get out of it, just keep them there.
Hug
just
tighter.
Hug. Gosh, this is bad advice.
No means no, people. No means no, people.
No means
Jokes
no.
aside. Well, it's a great story, and I think what we're kind of realizing the more shows we do, the more episodes we do, is that really we just have a fire podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're definitely
It's
pyros.
it's an arson. It's a firecast.
Should we change the name?
Let's embrace it.
Well, let's call it.
Hug tight.
Let's call it. I guess we burned it down that way. Mm-hmm. Is that a good name for the podcast? Should we change it?
I guess we torched it that way.
Oh, I like it. If anyone has any thoughts, there's. Oh my gosh, what is my deal with burning things down? Fire plays a central role in the climax of Rollers, the movie.
It goes back to what that guy asked me in the trailer, man. You said it yourself. Fire, climax. We're getting the picture here, buddy.
This is more fun and cheaper than therapy. I might just keep doing it this way.
You're not getting the bills I've been sending you, bruh?
Oh boy, I guess they're just piling up at my other house. I'll find them. But anyway, well, that's that. I think that'll be fun. I think next week I am very excited about just kind of talking about location stuff, because I think that's something that a lot of people really don't think about with movies, is where they're shot. But the reality is that it plays a huge role in the actual process of making a movie.
It's always cool to live in a small little town where they do film something. Like, they filmed... What did they film? They filmed something here. And people were excited about it.
42.
Obviously, I was too.
42, because they had that big old baseball stadium. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, you could see Harrison Ford stumbling around town.
Yeah, he was flying his plane around.
I was actually thinking of the other one, though. What's the handsome vampire kid name?
Robert Pattinson?
Yeah, he was here.
What for?
Who knows? Somebody knows. Call me. Tell me.
All right, I'm just name dropping now, but whatever. I'm going to name drop sometimes. Sorry, people. Deal with it. Robert Pattinson at the premiere for Never Going Back. We're all kind of sitting in the back waiting for it to start, and all of a sudden Robert Pattinson walks in with his entourage.
Hey, yo.
It was pretty cool. I think...
What kind of entourage does he have?
Like 5 or 6 people of various ages kind of just hanging out. I don't know.
That's a lonely gig, you know?
It would be
It's like
very
being
lonely.
like Macaulay Culkin's protege or something, you know? It's like,
I think he's a really, really good actor, but like I met him very briefly and it was fine. He certainly wouldn't remember me, and I didn't take much away from the interaction. I think maybe, I'm really going out on a limb here, I think maybe he was friends with, or maybe dating, I don't want to presume too much, one of the stars, Cammie Marone, who, by the way, speaking of name dropping, fun fact, she's the star of Never Go Back. Pretty sure she's dating Leo DiCaprio, which is hilarious.
who isn't dating Leo DiCaprio? And on that note, I really need to go.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. I don't want to keep you. All right, talk later.
No, love you. Bye. Bye.
All right, we made it to the end of another episode of I Guess We'll Do It That Way without burning down either of our houses. #blessed. Next week, we'll be jumping back into Rollers, so be sure to tune in. Today's show was produced and edited by Isaiah Smallman. Executive producer, John Schimpf. Opening song is The Get Down by Summer Dregs. Outro music is The Man From Nowhere by Tom Paulus and Max Bells. Our cover art was designed by Nate Giordano. This has been a production of Mama Bear Studios.
Feeling the heat of the desert air. It's your boy.